I'm always looking for a good driving road. I've driven the Autobahn, I've driven the back hills of Bavaria, I've driven the tail of the Dragon, and then my California staple, the Malibu Canyons. We're spending the week with the 2016 Camaro Convertible, but we've got a twist. Under the hood is the V6. Now, is the V6 good enough? Well, we're gonna find out up here at Pacific Coast Highway if it is good enough or if it's gonna find itself sometime in the future on a misspelled Craigslist ad. Because who would do that? Here we are, beautiful Northern California afternoon. Fog's lifted, and we are behind the wheel of the 2016 Camaro. And it is a properly windy day, but it's absolutely stunning to be up in Northern California on this gorgeous road. Since we're gonna start talking about things that look pretty, let's talk about how the Camaro looks. Much more aggressive than previous generations. Really good LED treatment. The RS package gives you additional 20-inch wheels, which are pretty snazzy and attractive. Then we have this beautiful paint scheme called Hyper Blue Metallic. I think GM took a little bit of Subaru love, calling things Hyper Blue. Matches with the two-tone black and white interior. I think the interior materials of the Camaro have stepped to the next level. Much nicer to touch and feel. We do have the fun LED treatment as well in the interior, which makes me feel like I can turn it yellow and feel like I'm in a Tron movie when we're driving around at night, so that's pretty cool. Also, what's cool with the LEDs is if you change driving modes, if you move from Tour to Sport, it goes from blue to red, which is kind of interesting, that letting you know that the car is bringing up some serious fun to be had with going red. The dual mode exhaust that comes with the car, that is an $800 option, is probably one of the coolest things that you can get with this car. You can change the engine sound management in any driving mode. If you want it to be loud, you can have it loud. It's interesting that GM came up with a very British sounding car. Initially, I was kind of leaning towards the F-Type cam with that, but it's not really that. It is interesting because it seems like this is what would be if TVR made a V6. And it has a very high rasp when you start getting towards really high RPMs, but it sounds really good. There we go. Since we're rolling through the gears, let's talk about something that isn't my favorite. I'm not a huge fan of the GM 8-speed. It upshifts with very good ferocity, but it's not very confidence inspiring. It doesn't really do what I want it to do. It can get frustrating at times. I would prefer to row my own, but anybody who's going to be getting this type of car, especially with V6 and convertible and an automatic, it's a cruiser. They just want to cruise, have a whole lot of fun with just being a cruiser, which is exactly what we're doing right now. Now, when you want to roll through the gears, you can be a cruiser, but when you're really hammering it, it does feel a little bit more than just a cruiser. It feels like a proper sports car. Now, mated to this 8-speed automatic is GM's 3.6 liter direct injection variable valve timing V6. Develops 335 horsepower and 285 pound-feet of torque. You might notice something, that the 4-cylinder turbo develops more torque, 10 pound-feet, more than the V6 from 1800 to 5500 RPM. So that might have a little bit more punch, but ultimately this is a bit more fun to ring out than a 4-cylinder. The pops, cracks on the upshifts, it sounds pretty good. I was very surprised by this. Then you could turn it down into tour mode, so if you don't want to start pissing off your neighbors with a fairly aggressive exhaust, you don't have to do so. It's enough. I would call this more than adequate. It's a good bit of fun. Sounds great, has a good bit of power. I don't feel like I'm wanting for power, but occasionally I'm wanting for the V8. I'm an idiot, I'm an enthusiast. I would want the V8. And since we're gonna talk about the V8, I'm going to bring up something that's interesting with this car. This car is priced pretty heavily. Starts at $36,000 for the 4-cylinder turbo, but then you have to add the $1,500 for the transmission, $1,500 for the V6. Then you start adding RS packages, driver convenience. This car is $47,500 for a V6 Camaro convertible. Shocked me, frankly, shocked me. Recently, I drove a SS convertible, a 2SS convertible, and it was at $54,000. I would spend the extra money and get the V8 because it just feels more fitting to the nature of the muscle car. But the V6 is about the same weight, if I'm sure somebody will correct me on that. It's about the same weight as the V8. Not as sharp as turn-in from what I'm hearing as the 4-cylinder, but turn-in is sharp, handles well. The suspension is very well dialed in, handles bumps well. The Alpha platform did lose some weight, and it did gain some grip and handling capabilities. The blips on the downshifts, it sounds good, not so responsive, but something that happens for me is if a car sounds good, I can forgive a lot of negatives about it, as long as I got a good sounding car. And this is one of those cars that a lot of people are going to want to tune a Camaro, and I get it, but this is a car that you could just leave the factory exhaust, and it's completely normal. You don't have to screw with anything. This is a car that I really want to feel like I want to mess with at all, and I'm a tuning idiot. I always have to mess with every car I own, and this is a car that I feel like I wouldn't need to do that at all. Now, you slow things down, you just relax, and it becomes a phenomenal cruiser. Relaxed, comfortable. Seats are incredibly comfortable. I actually think the bolstering on the Mustang was probably a little bit better, but overall seat comfort, I'm going to give it to the Camaro. Now, since we bring up the Mustang again, I think the interior quality of the materials is better in the Camaro. I think the style of the Mustang on the interior is going to be a bit more timeless. It's going to hold over time considerably better than the Camaro. This does feel a little bit 2016, and we'll see how it feels in a couple years when we see them on those Craigslist ads that I mentioned before. Another thing that I talked to at a recent motoring press event with one of the PR guys is the screen is angled back, and it's glossy, so it's done so as to help the reflections. But something that I don't think that either they did or did not intend on doing is they harken back to the 60s when you had the chrome glove box. So if you look over your passenger, kids, if you're, a millennial, go ahead and go look up chrome glove box from the 60s, and then you can go ahead and find out exactly what I'm talking about. I'll go ahead and maintain this review as a little bit PG, or I'll just say PG-13, that's fine.
So in the end, you have an attractive, comfortable, 4-seat-ish convertible that nudges on the realm of not inexpensive. In the world of lobbing off cylinders, decreasing displacement, and adding turbochargers, the spirit of the muscle car seems to be dying with more demanding CAFE standards and the quest for better fuel economy. The V6 Camaro is not a bad car at all. Subjectively, it's actually quite good. In fact, it makes more power than a 14-year-old LS1 powered Camaro SS. But in that lies the real problem, the need for 8 cylinders. And it may only be my problem, but it leaves me searching for V8 powered Camaros on our favorite Guilty Pleasure website, even if it is spelled incorrectly.
Why are you staring at my nuts? Like, my nuts aren't out, it's just a crotch shot. Come on, sexy time.
Music.
Sexy music. You know want to talk about sexy music? I'm gonna make some sexy music right now.